Welcome everybody to Bugbears and Brews. My name's Brian, and today we're going to go ahead and do an encounter recap of our Storm King Thunders campaign. This time it was session number 4, or sorry, not 4, 9. Wow, looking at one hand and counting 4 fingers. Session number 9, and it started off with the characters traveling between Red Larch and Westbridge. The first day of travel, post-boar incident from the previous session, the party heard large voices speaking in Giant, and so Nivara and Pavik went to investigate it, and they had to go about a half a mile away or so, and they found 2 fire giants overlooking or watching a contingent of orcs that were digging for something. After sizing up the group and going back and talking to everybody, the group decided not to tangle with these foes. They know that they had trouble with hill giants, and that was a single hill giant, so dealing with 2 fire giants along with, at least a dozen orcs didn't sound like a good time to the party. So they decided, let's just leave that be and head about our business. They continued on towards Westbridge, and not a lot of issue going on there. The next day, though, they did encounter some sort of giant seeing in a collapsed tower. So they followed it, and the giant was singing about Chief Ga stealing her husband, and just a real sad song. And it turns out it was a female giant, and she was just kind of making up a silly song about how she lost her husband to the chief. This is where things get kind of interesting, though, because Pavik, our Goliath cleric, decided, you know what, I'm going to have some fun with this giant and entice her. And so he pulled it out and started helicoptering and slapping it back and forth. And that turned the giant on. And the giant took Pavik up on his... Pavik didn't realize, maybe he obviously realized, but he didn't think about the fact that he's actually propositioning a giant. And Moog was really excited for Pavik and wanted Pavik to go ahead and come inside the tower, and they would take care of some business. I should mention that there was a boulder blocking the main entrance of the tower, and no matter how much the party tried, they couldn't move the boulder, and Pavik kind of shoehorned himself into enticing this giant, and he bit the bullet for the team, and he had sex with the hill giant. It's the first time I've ever done something like that in D&D. I really glazed over the actual session or the encounter or whatever you want to call it. I did talk about the cuddling afterward and how the giant felt afterward, and how she felt leading up to it. But the actual act itself, we left alone because that's not cool. We don't need to role play 2 guys. It's a guy and a guy, role playing out sex. We don't need to do that. But it was a lot of fun to razz Pavik throughout the rest of the night with that, as we'll hear later on. And he tried to kind of back out of his word, and he's like, oh, well, let me bring the party in, and Moog is not that kind of girl and doesn't want an audience. But Moog was kind of smitten by Pavik after that. While this was going on, Thessalon and the Overall were climbing up the tower to kind of take a look and see what was going on, or see what else is in that tower, if there's anything of interest. And they found a skeleton in the tower. The skeleton itself wasn't anything major, but it was near a treasure chest, and inside the treasure chest was a decent amount of silver, which equated out to be about 30 gold, if I recall, and then a couple potions. There was a potion of growth and a potion of superior healing, I believe it was. Post Pavik's hill giant lovemaking, you let him know that, hey, you probably could use this potion of growth. We had some fun with that there, and yeah. Let's not. I just feel like I'm actually turning red. From there, you headed into Red Larch, or not Red Larch, Westbridge. Westbridge was really just a small trade town. And so, not even a town, like a small trading outpost. So you guys just gathered your supplies, rested for the night, and headed off. I will say that Vander did talk the owner of the tavern to allowing him to take his the owner's room for the night. There was a slight change, a little back and forth bartering there, but in the end, Vander got a nicer room than what everybody else would have got because that's how Vander rolls. Setting out between Westbridge and Triboar. Really uneventful as far as random encounters go. There was no wolves, no nothing like that, no orcs. However, each night the party was visited by Moog. Moog would hang out in the distance and drop off little gifts. I think there was 3 or 4 gifts. There was, let's see here, owlbear head, picked clean and ready for eating. There was a lock of Moog's hair, a small bag of big toenail clippings, and then a drawing of Moog and Pavik and the baby that Moog insists that Moog is now carrying. But they kind of had this this big guardian angel protecting their path up to Triboar, and when they made it into Triboar, they had no more further sightings of Moog. So yeah, we finally made it to Triboar. That's big, right? We've been setting off for, it took us, 8 sessions, realistically 7 before we knew where we were going to get there, but we finally did. That's awesome. Once we got into Triboar, some conflicts there. First, Grimach thought it'd be really cool to go ahead and climb the tallest tower in the town square, but it also happens to be the home of the militia, and the militia weren't exactly a big fan of a half-orc climbing their tower, let alone anybody climbing the tower, but especially a half-orc. That's one thing I will say that I do try to play up. When you play some of the lesser-known races, like your Dragonborn, your half-orc, and so on, there should be a little bit of anonymity or animosity there towards those races, according to reading the backgrounds and all that. So I try to lift that up a little bit. I know gets a little old at times, but a town that's mostly humans isn't going to be a big fan of anybody climbing the tower, let alone a half-orc climbing their tower. And that led to a little bit of conflict. Grimach almost got shot down as he was trying to climb the tower, but eventually he did step down, and him and some of the local constables kind of played a cloak and dagger, who's watching who kind of game. Vander went off to go find the nicest hotel, and he believed he found it, and he set up reservations, and he went and had a drink, and he found out there's an even nicer hotel. So I said, you know what? I'm in the wrong place. Nix my room. I'm going to go over there. When he got to the super nice place, so they wouldn't let him in. Even though he's highborn noble, and he's like, hey, I got my signet ring. You guys owe me. I'm in here. And they're like, you know what? We are reservation only. You don't have a reservation. You're tough out of luck. And so Vander went back to his first hotel, and they actually gave out the last room because Vander said he no longer needs it. So Vander ended up in a middle-class room, and he added more names to his shit list. He went out and actually bought a book at the Lion Coaster Trading Post and started writing down names of people that have pissed him off in this campaign. So I think everybody that has made their way into that book are in some way or another affiliated with... Oh, no, not true, because there's a constable that's in there as well as the constable's underling. So there's a couple people from hotels. Hi, baby. A couple people from hotels as well as some constables. You guys asked around a bit about Eleni, and the rumors that you guys got, or not the rumors, the stories you guys got was that Eleni Inchild died about a year after coming to town due to some mysterious illness. The house stood vacant for some time, and then it had an estate auction, and Lady, what was her name? Lady Brava bought the house, and her daughter have been living there since. Lady Brava is a human, and the daughter is similar in age to what Eleni's son would have been, but different sexes there. You guys decided, I figured you'd do some investigation, but you're like, you know what, let's just go knock on the door, boom, 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 and just try to see what we can figure out. Heading there, Thessalon decided he's going to wear the guise of Belray, who is Eleni's father. And when they got there, It's a nice gated house, but playing in the front yard was the little girl, Broomy, and they enticed Broomy into letting them in and getting her mom with cookies, Torm cookies. So Pavic kept on feeding Broomy all these cookies, and eventually she let them in and got her mother, and that's where things got confusing. So with the mother, forgive me here, my eyes seem a little... There we go. With the mother, she was really standoffish with you guys and had good reason. You know, you guys are strangers asking for information about the previous owner, and you eventually played the story of, well, here is Eleni's father. He just wants some of her effects, and she begrudgingly agreed after some discussion. But as this was going on, Thessalon started doing, I forget the spell, but it's one where you can, I think it's the Detect Thoughts, I think is what it was. And found out that, hey, this Lady Bravo chick is really thinking some weird thoughts about, like, hey, what's my father doing here? And so Belray Thessalon said, you know, why are you doing this on your father? We need to know about your sister. And that's when the Detect Thoughts caught even more weird issues of, you know, I have a sister, what's going on? And then people in the party were thinking, how is this full human a child of an elf? Really confused, especially an elf that was kind of racist towards humans to begin with. What's going on there? And after several confusing loops, eventually you guys went down. After several confusing loops, she said, you know what? Let's get you guys in. Let's get you the book and get you the hell out of my hair. And she took you down into her house and went down to the basement and said, hey, when I bought this house, Eleni had several secret passages leading to this really weird area. The book's in there. She led you guys there. And, you know, you came to some sort of ritual chamber with, you know, lined with all sorts of books and infernal text on the wall. She took you guys over to a bookshelf and said, here is her book. Go for it. Take it. And you guys refused, thinking it was some sort of trap, or highly suspecting it was. And you guys were kind of loosely right. I don't know if it was, the book itself wasn't a trap, and there wasn't supposed to be a trap played. But also I wasn't expecting you guys to do the brute force beat down, bash on her door and just let's do this. So combat broke out because shortly after entering that room, Lady Brava dropped her disguise and was really Eleni. So combat broke out, but we didn't get very far. I think she only got 2 turns out of her round. So combat started. It was the party versus Eleni, and Eleni also has a couple infernal beings in the room as well that you guys didn't previously see. So, well, they did appear originally when combat first started, but they were invisible at that time. But once combat started, you guys saw them, you're like, oh, shit's about to get real. So that's where we left off. This session as a whole, I think, was a decent amount of fun. We had a lot of joking. We really razzed Jose for, you know, the move he played with Pavic, and I think he understands that he's now never going to just start whipping it out and flapping it around in Floozy's faces, no matter the size of the Floozy, or especially when the Floozy is big enough to destroy the party. I don't want to say Jose was, or Pavic was raped, but I think he was kind of strong-arm coerced of saying, like, if you don't do this, the words didn't come out of Moog's mouth, but it's like, if you didn't do this, things weren't going to go well. And so the party kind of, not Moog didn't force it, but the party forced it upon Pavic. So that was some interesting stuff there. And the whole hotel thing, I know Don didn't seem to be a big fan of that. I told him that that wasn't going to be a recurring thing. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to play up on his character's anger of, you know, always having to have the best stuff and being forced to not have the best stuff for once and see how he reacts to that. So All right, guys. I know this encounter recap was a bit all over the place and not quite as well formed as my other ones, but it happens from time to time. See you guys. I can't wait for next Wednesday. Bye.